Yay! Finally I'm back! This time I'm gonna do a Q&A about India, but I have to admit that I was a little bit too lazy because I filmed so much in India and Malaysia and still I haven't edited anything. So this video will be in English as I got so many questions from international people like international friends and also locals from India, so I want to answer it so that everybody can understand. I'm still thinking about if I should do all my videos in English on my second channel, so maybe you should just write a comment below what you think about it, because actually I think it's more practical and of course there would be a bigger audience for that. So let's just start. We'll start with the social media questions, so keep in mind you always have to keep up with my social media because everything will be there way earlier than anywhere else. So the first question from a special someone is questions for the Q&A. What's your favorite food from India? I think you know it well, and also everybody who met me in India, because I just love masala dosa. It's the best thing ever. And once I came back, I told everybody about this because I just love it so much and I plan on definitely doing it. Maybe I could also do a live stream about this, like my first time trying masala dosa. This would be the funniest thing ever. So just as an explanation for the people who don't know what it is, so dosa is actually like a crepe, you could say, or maybe like a wrap. It's just very thin dough and you put it on a pan and then it gets super crispy and nice. But the best thing about it is that you serve coconut chutney and sambar along with it. Like sambar is a very hot sauce or something, or maybe like a soup you could say, and coconut chutney is just the best dip. You dip it in there and then you just eat it. But usually when I get the coconut chutney, I could just eat it all the time, because the best thing in India when you go to a restaurant or something like that, you just get a refill for this coconut chutney all the time. Once you finished it, then you can just be like, hey, and then they bring you more. Oh my god, I can eat it all day, every day. So yeah, and the masala part about it is that you have potatoes with masala spice, sometimes there are also beans and cabbage in it, and it's just the best thing ever. I love it so much. One day in India, we ate it 4 days straight. 4 days! The second question is, where's the best dosa place in India? Again about dosa, the whole Q&A will just be about dosa. So the best dosa I ate was actually in Mumbai. So the first day I arrived there, I was arriving there at like 9 AM in the morning with my fucking big suitcase. I didn't know where I was at all because the bus was just stopping in nowhere. So I just had my big fucking suitcase with me and I didn't know where to go because I hadn't any place to put my suitcase. So I was just searching some person on couch surfing to put my suitcase there. So I was just strolling around the city. It was way too early for anything because in India most shops open at like 10 or something. So I was just going around the city. I had no idea where I've been, but I found this one shop and it was opened in like half an hour later. So I asked them, hey, can I just sit here with my suitcase until you open up? And they said, yeah, it's fine, whatever. So this place was so good, but I have no idea where it was because I don't know the place. And I also don't have any name of the restaurant, but it was so good. I loved it. And it was fucking cheap. Like if you convert it to euros, it was like €1. €1 for one whole menu, and you're full after that because it's so good. And you always get the coconut chutney refill. But also the hostel in that I stayed, they had the best dosa. They made so good dosa. Actually, it's South Indian food and I was staying in the north, but still they made such a good masala dosa. I really loved it when they did it. And also the street food dosas are very good in Mumbai, so I would recommend that one. Is it really that crowded and loud as it's always described? Yeah, I would say so. Sometimes it is. I was staying in Jodhpur, so it's not like the biggest city. In Mumbai and Delhi, of course, it was more crowded, but I wouldn't say it was like annoying or something. Like you cannot compare it to the Gamescom or a concert because there it's really fucking crowded, and in India it's not like that. I didn't feel like that at all. Sometimes it was a bit crowded, so you just had to go very slow because everybody was in front of you and they were not moving really. but it's not that crowded. I wouldn't say that it's really bothering me or something. So the traffic was always so crazy and it was loud. It was loud all the time, but I'm really missing that, especially concerning the traffic, because everybody's blowing the horn like and then there are people just, I don't know, ringing bells and singing. But I miss this so much, because when I was driving on the German roads again in my own car, I felt like, oh my god, this is so empty. It's so quiet. I hate it here. And where are the cows on the streets? So for me, it was never really overwhelming that it was too loud or anything. There was just this one time when we went to a temple and there was a celebration. They were ringing these bells constantly. So there were two people standing just like with the bells above their heads, and they were like bing, 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 bing. And it was like that for 10 minutes straight, and I thought that I was going crazy, but this was the only time that when the loud atmosphere was really bothering me. What do you love in India? Well, masala dosa. But there's so much stuff I love about India. So starting with food, which is very exotic and different for us Europeans, very spicy, but super exciting. This is one thing I love. And I also love the diversity in nature that India has, the diversity in people, because when you just move like 100 kilometers to another place, it's totally different there. And this is one thing that really fascinates me about India. And because I don't want to talk about this question all the time, I would just say like the diversity. All this diversity you have only in one country. That's why you call it a subcontinent, and I would totally agree with that. So this is the thing I would say I love the most about India, that you have so many differences within one country. How expensive was your whole trip? Okay, I got many questions about financials, and of course it's an important question. For me, it's hard to say what it actually costs, because I was not always like, oh, this is how much money I spent, because I was just going there to enjoy my time. So I have to say I paid 700 euros for the flight, but because I was applying for a scholarship, I got 530 euros back, so this was a fucking cheap flight for me. I had to pay 400 euros in Germany for my local committee to ISEC, because this was the organization that was providing me the internship, so I had to pay them. If you do a second internship with them, you only have to pay 250 euros again, I guess, or like 40, I have no idea. And when I was coming to India, I also had to pay $80 for the project in India, but accommodation was included and all the food was included, so this was a good thing for me. Of course, sometimes we did trips and special activities which I would also have to pay, and sometimes I had food outside. I was going to Malaysia. All in all, I would definitely say that the flights were the most expensive thing, because I was paying for India and I was paying for Malaysia. The flight to Malaysia was 150 euros approximately, coming back and forth. And I also had a domestic flight in Malaysia, but it was like 25 euros, so that's totally fine. So all in all, I didn't pay so much for 6 weeks that I've been away. I would say I paid additionally to these flight costs and all, I would say like 150 to 200 euros, which is totally fine for 6 weeks. I would say that's perfect, but I would also say like India is really the cheapest option in Asia that you could choose. What was the first impression about India, and did you have times where you felt uncomfortable around men, like when they were looking at you? So my first impression of India was, whoa, this is a whole new world. So I was just coming there, and the first thing that struck me was the environment. So I was just looking about at landscape, at houses and buildings, and it was so different. People were different. They were talking in a different language. They had different sizes than I had. Like the vice president of ISEC greeted me once I came to Jodhpur and she was just so small. Like, you could say half of my size probably. So at first I was like, whoa, okay, girls here are kind of small. And then I was going there by tuk-tuk to my hostel, and I was just looking at all the buildings, and at first I felt a little estranged because these buildings were looking like ruins to me. So I was reading and watching a lot of videos about India, so I knew a shit ton about India, but it's just different when you come there at first, so you feel like, whoa, okay, where am I right now? So I was expecting not so much luxury, of course. So when I saw that every building is kind of unfinished, or there is no roof, or stuff like that, I felt like, oh, okay, this is really like a developing country. But once I got into it, it just became my second home. So I cannot say, oh my god, this is so shitty there. But at first this was a thing I was surprised about, let's say that. But for me it was not like a culture shock. Not at all. I didn't have this typical experience of a culture shock because I was just very educated about the situation I was getting myself into. So I wouldn't say, oh my gosh, I was feeling so bad when I came there, because the first day I came there, I enjoyed it so much, because it was probably also because my timing was great. Once I arrived there, it was the Holi festival. It was the second day of Holi, so we were just playing around with colors, dancing, and it was the best feeling ever, also because I was not expecting to get into a hostel with so many nice people, because it was a family-like atmosphere, and all my interns that were there with me, they were so nice and welcoming, and I loved it so much. So it was just first these insecurities that I had to overcome, like, okay, this is a complete different culture, and the buildings, oh my god, the buildings. And after that, when I was also seeing those paintings, I was kind of fascinated again, because I found my original purpose of discovering this new culture. And when I saw all these religious paintings, I thought like, oh, this is so interesting, oh my god, I'm so happy that I'm here. So it was kind of a mixed feeling once I got there, but it got so much better after I met all these people at the hostel directly afterwards. So about feeling uncomfortable around men, for me it was weird once I arrived at the airport in Delhi, because everyone was looking at me. I was like the only white person there. So I came there and everybody was like and that was so weird for me. I was like, whoa, I'm no zoo animal, and I experienced that all the time when I was in India. At first, you feel very prominent, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a celebrity, I'm so famous, because people are also asking you for pictures, are always approaching you like, hey, how are you, where do you come from? And at first you feel so nice, because you're like, oh, everybody wants to talk to me, that's nice. But after a few days, you're just completely annoyed by that. You're, oh my fucking god, mind your own business, go away, I don't care about you. And it's just this discrepancy, you could say, because you're not really imagining that people would be like this. And with men, it was especially so weird when they were doing it. Like, the thing I hated the most was when people were sitting on the bike and they were driving in this direction, and when I was passing by, or when they saw me on this side, then they were just like driving in that side and turning like this, and they were looking for 1 minute like this, and I felt like, what the fuck are you doing? Can you please just drive into a tree or something, just because you have to stare at me like this? So this was something that was annoying for me, but I was never really uncomfortable. There was this one time when I was going with another intern. I visited him at his place, so we were just talking about financials, also because he booked my flight to Malaysia because I had some problems doing it. So he helped me with that, and I was talking to him, and then I saw like, oh shit, it's getting very late, and I didn't want to take a tuk-tuk because I always feel so lazy in India. So I told him, hey, you want to walk to my hostel together? And he said, yeah, sure, we can do that. So it was 11 o'clock, and when we were going out, there were only men outside, and they were in bicycles, in cars, and they all were looking at me, and this was such a weird feeling. I wouldn't say that I was really uncomfortable, but it was just like not feeling so good about this. So this was the only time where I felt like, oh shit. So it's always good to have a person with you, but I would never say that I was harassed or anything in India. This never happened to me. And also people were not touching me or something like that. They were just staring all the time because they are curious, and I can totally understand that, but it's just annoying after some times because everybody's just so interested in you, like, oh my gosh, you're a white girl, I've never seen that before, I have to talk to her, and stuff like that. But that's it, and it was fine for me. You just have to get used to it and learn how to ignore it. Another question by my friend Murilo is, what was the most beautiful thing you saw there? So concerning landscapes or sightseeing, I would say, of course, the Taj Mahal. It's very beautiful and it's giant. It's just amazing. I love it. But what I also very enjoyed was the mountains in India. So as I said, it's very diverse, the country. So when you go there, you have desert. When you go there, you have mountains. When you go there, you have sea. So it's totally different in every place you are. So one time we were going to Rishikesh and we were camping there, and we're having a campfire, and it was just so beautiful because once we arrived there, we got to some not so crowded place. It was not very touristic, and there were people just camping there to go rafting afterwards. So when we were coming there, we just had the most awesome view on the sea. So the river in India, the Ganga, and also the mountains, and it was so beautiful because the sky was so clear, the water was so clear, everything perfect. You could just enjoy everything there. Did you find a boyfriend from India? No, I did not. And I remember when I was going to India, before that, my mother always told me, please don't fall in love with an Indian guy. I want you to come back to Germany. Please don't stay in India forever. And I said, like, Mom, come on. Don't think like this. I'm not gonna do something like this, whatever. So in India, actually, there was nobody I fell in love with. There were some guys that were quite nice and that I was going out with or something, having dates, but I was not really falling in love or something. But I fell in love elsewhere, but we're gonna talk about this later on because we want to keep this video interesting, right? What was expensive in India? So when you see the currency exchange, you don't really think anything is expensive in India because for Europeans everything is fucking cheap. I would say the only thing that is expensive or like equally expensive to Europe is all that brand clothes, but I think sometimes they are still even cheaper. If you buy Nike, it's maybe not like 100 euros, but like converted you would say 60 euros. So it's still cheaper. Everything is cheaper there. You could say maybe the flights are just equally expensive because even domestic flights were like 50 euros or something, so this was also not super cheap, but everything else was so cheap. Accommodation was cheap, food was cheap, everything was cheap. Ooh, and I also have some questions from my Romanian friend, so love to you, girl. I have a good one for you. What bothered you more, the bathroom bugs or the mosquito bites? Definitely the mosquito bites. At first I was so afraid of all these insects because I hated insects all the time before coming to India. I hated them so much. I was so afraid of them, of spiders, of I don't know, everything, just everything. And when I was going into our hostel bathroom at night, there was everything. So I couldn't be afraid of it anymore because I was confronted with it all the time. So this helped me lose my fear a lot because when I was going to the bathroom just to pee at night, there was everything. It was so funny because I was just sitting on the toilet and there was also the sink directly beneath it. So there was always this one insect who was just looking at me like, and I was looking back. And it was looking back. So it was always like a stare battle between this insect and me. Oh my fucking god. But the mosquitoes were so much worse. I remember the first days when I came to India, I was always applying these mosquito repellent. Just like, oh no, you're not gonna get me. And for the first days it worked so well, I had no mosquito bite. I think for the whole first week. And all my other roomies were just complaining, oh, I have so many mosquito bites, it's itching, I hate it. And I was just there and was like, hey, I don't have any. And after that, I was biting all the time. It was so annoying. And sometimes it was itching so hard, so bad. I had like 20 at a time, like ping, 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 and at the same places. And I don't even know when they did that because I never really realized that I was bitten or something. I have no idea. The problem was also in the hostel there were only fans and no AC. So you say if there are more ACs in a building, then normally there are not so many mosquitoes. but we had so many mosquitoes. But I remember before I was coming to India, I thought if you get one mosquito bite, you're gonna have malaria. And it's such a wrong view, like, what the fuck, I had so many mosquito bites and I still didn't get malaria. The real question is, are your pants still dirty from that time I spilled spicy curry at that party? Oh, that story. So we were having spicy curry. It was a party and it was like at 2 AM at night, I don't know anymore, but there was a plate directly in front of me and I was eating from that, and then there was Alina just coming beside me and she was like, "Ugh," just shoving it more to the front side of the table where I was sitting, and I really saw it falling on my pants already. Then she was shoving it more and more and more and I was like, no, please, and then it was just like falling over. Oh fuck, because it was so oily and I thought it would never go out, but actually it went out, so everything's good, Alina. Thanks for not washing my pants. No, now I'm getting serious. The real question, is your hair still pink? Mine still is. You see, it's a little pink, not so much anymore, but it's still just like a little bit. And it's been 7 or 8 weeks now since Holi, because this is Holi color and it's still there. But I also brought Holi color from India with me, so I think that my friends and I are probably gonna play it sometime. Would you say that your stay in India inspired your taste of clothing? Or in general, did you see some cool stylings which you want to try? And if so, what do you think is the... Oh my gosh, that's a hard question, but I really like it. It's very creative. So I would definitely say that India also changed my taste in clothing, I would say. So they have very bright colors and not only like black and white, which is mostly like it in Germany. I have to say I was always more the colorful and bright person, because so many friends of mine, they just wear the same shit over and over again. No offense, but I'm always a person who likes to combine outfits. And in India there are so many cool styles. It's very traditional sometimes, but I really like the clothing, definitely, because I love that it's different in every part of it. I also bought something there, but it's still at my parents' house, so I cannot wear it right now. But what I really love is these loose pants. They are so awesome. They are especially perfect when it's hot, because you cannot wear jeans when it's hot. You're just dying from heat. And what I realized in India, I'm always sweating under my butt. It's only like this in India, because normally I'm not sweating at these places. What I also love in India is this bindi. I love bindis. They are so cute. It's such a cool style, but you could never wear these in Germany, so I'm just wearing it right now because I'm doing this video, because I missed wearing it. Because when you go out, everybody would just ask you, did you convert to Hinduism or some shitty bullshit like that, because they don't really know about this. Because at first I also thought it would be more like a religious sign, but it got to be more of a lifestyle fashion choice, and I really like it, because you also have these in different colors, so you could just match it to your outfit. It's awesome. Concerning your question, I would say that the biggest difference is definitely colorful clothing, because in India everything is so colorful. They have all colors you want, and there I finally got the color I was always looking for as pants, because we had this kind of yellow tone in autumn that was everywhere. It was everywhere on tops and t-shirts and blouses, but never on pants. And I wanted these as very loose pants, and I was not getting them anywhere. It took me like 4 months to search something like this, and I was never finding anything that I liked at all. So when I was going to India, it only took 1 week to find something like that, and I was instantly buying this, and I still love these so much. What I don't like so much about Indian clothing, especially the things you get at the market, the quality is so bad. There was one pant I bought and I was putting it in the washing machine just one time. Afterwards it was gone. It just I don't know what happened, but there were just very, very small pieces of clothing everywhere in the washing machine. And it just completely teared apart when I was putting it in there once. And another big difference is that we have everything that is so tight on the body, so everything is just like, oh yeah, you can see my curves. And in India it's very loose, it's a loose fit. which is sometimes also more chillax, you could say, and sometimes I also like it more, or you can just combine it very nicely, because this is what I love about dressing up. It just makes everything more interesting when you combine clothes. Just wearing one plain shirt doesn't make your look very stylish, but just combining pieces together is very cool. So I really like wearing normal things I had before from Europe, and then just styling it up with some Indian style clothes. So this is very cool, and I also love this necklace so much. So in India you wear also many jewelry things and rings and necklaces and bracelets, and this is what I really like. It's cool. Sometimes it's a bit too much for me, because you have everything that is so glittery and bling bling and I don't know, stars and hearts, and that's sometimes a little bit too much for me, because also these saris you have there, the traditional clothing of India, sometimes it's just too much. There are patterns everywhere, and I don't want patterns at every place of my clothing, because I also saw many people who are combining patterns, and this is like the biggest no-go for me. You cannot combine patterns. Either you have to wear plain and pattern, like t-shirt, no pattern, trousers pattern, or t-shirt pattern, trousers no pattern. But people were just like pattern. But this was tearing my heart apart. You cannot do this. But in India everything is possible, so of course they can do it. But this was something that was not so much my thing. But I loved the saris. The traditional clothing was awesome, but you cannot really wear it here because everybody would look weirdly at you. In general, concerning German beauty, I would say that it's directly the opposite concerning skin color, because in India everybody is so hyped about fair skin color. When they see me, they're always like, oh, you're so beautiful, you have so wonderful skin, I love your blue eyes, because it's so uncommon in India. And when you come to Germany, people use machines to tan their skin, just so that they get a little bit browner. And it's the total opposite in India, because they have creams or gels just to make their skin fairer. And I think that's so fucking weird. But when I came to India, I felt like, whoa, okay, why do people do this? And then I remembered we are doing the same shit in Europe too. But I don't think anything of that is really necessary. I was never a person supporting these sun studios, neither I'm a person that supports these, I don't know, bleaching studios in India. So I think both is very stupid. You should just be happy with what you have. Sometimes it's hard because you always want something that you cannot have, but once you reach the point when you're just happy with yourself, you will be so much happier with your life in general, really. What was the most important thing you learned? This is a really hard one, because I learned so much there. I learned a lot about myself and about life in general, and it's very hard to only stick to one thing. So I would definitely say that you always have to move out of your comfort zone to develop yourself. This is one thing I learned that is so important, that you should always stay positive and optimistic about your life, because if one door closes, another one opens. So you should always be ready to take the opportunity. Even if something's going completely wrong, then you should just be positive about it and hope for a better thing that happens in the future. So it's actually always just about your mindset. So if you see a certain happening in a certain way, then it's just your choice. You determine what you think of this kind of situation. So if you think it's a shitty situation, then you'll feel bad about it. But if you say it's a shitty situation, but I learned this and that about it, then you will feel so much happier and more positive about it. And this is what I learned. So I don't want to be negative about anything anymore. I will just like, okay, this happened and I learned this and that out of that. So this will always help me, because mostly the bad experience are the ones that you learn the most of it. This is just one of the things I learned, because there is so much more important stuff. For example, that you should always be grateful for your life, because there are people struggling so much more than your life, and then you're here living in such a luxurious environment, and you're still complaining about your life, although there are people starving and fighting for their lives, just staying alive. So it's just completely unnecessary, because these people are mostly more happier because they are still so grateful for what they have, even if they have only one loaf of bread for one entire week or something, and we are just complaining about everything, and I totally hate this. So this is something I would like to transmit to all of you. Just be thankful for what you have, always see it in a positive way, so that you can always carry on with your life and be happy with it. And the question is about financials again. So it's about how I got the money to go to India and Malaysia, and what was more expensive. So first of all, I would like to say that Malaysia is definitely more expensive than India. India is very like the cheapest country you can choose in Asia. Maybe Nepal or also Philippines could be more cheap, but I don't know so much about it. But I would say India is very cheap. So you will have no problem once you reach there. The flight there is kind of expensive, it's always like that, but once you are there, then it's so cheap. You can stay there just for months and months and don't have to pay so much. Malaysia is a bit more expensive. It's not directly like Europe. In some kind of things you have to pay there. It's like Europe. I would say public transport is just as expensive in Malaysia, because you always have to pay for the metro again and over again. So this is kind of expensive, but food and accommodation is still fucking cheap, and also clothing and stuff like that. So that's no problem again. As I said, I applied for a scholarship, so the flight was not so expensive for me anymore. And like I would say, the thing that I really had to pay, it was like 150 for flight, and for the German one it was like 170, which would make like 350 around that. Then I also had to pay the fees for ISEC. So I would say for everything connected to the flights and the organizational stuff and accommodation around of everything, it would be like 650 euros, but you have to see that I also got the scholarship for my flight and had to pay the fees for ISEC additionally. For India, all in all, I paid around 150 bucks, I would say, plus some money that I spent in Malaysia, which was also about like 150, I guess, but I don't know where all this money went. I really have no idea what I spent this money on, but it just disappeared. I have no idea. Although it was only week compared to 4 weeks or 5 weeks in India, like what the fuck, I have no idea. So it was like 950 euros for 6 weeks. Of course, like I said, flights are expensive, and also the project fees were not like nothing. You cannot say this. Once I reached my 18th birthday, my parents gave me some money that they saved over time, and also it was money from my grandparents. So every year they were putting something on that bank account and they gave me that money. So this is money that I have on my bank account that I can use for stuff like traveling and anything that I want to. And I also had money from different jobs I was doing, but I was never really broke. So I cannot say, okay, this money is just from that, this money is just from that, because I always have something on my bank account that I can take. I also started a tutorial job in January, so I also get paid like 10 euros an hour. And I did a job at the post office for 2 or 3 months where I didn't get so bad money, I wouldn't say that. And I also had this campaign going on with Ubisoft on my first channel, and just some little things in between. But in the future I would definitely like to extend this social media thing a little more, so it would be so awesome to get more campaigns like this and go more into a direction like travel blogging. This would be totally my thing. I would love it so much. And yeah, there are more ideas that I have, but it's just in the future, so I have to see about this. But this is how I got the money for my travels. And I would say there are always possibilities if you really want to do this. So if you guys who are watching right now also want to do an internship abroad, you could also just look for scholarships that you can get, because there are many programs who also offer scholarships. So this is definitely a possibility, and sometimes it's just totally worth it even trying to write to them, because it can save you a lot of money. Hey Lisa, I want to know which thing do you like about India the most, and what makes India different from other countries? So the first one I already answered, and the second one is quite hard again. I would also say that it's culture again, because in India I have a combination of so many cultures and it's still super unique. And this is what I love about India, because it's not totally westernized. I mean, of course, some Western vibes and influences are getting into the country, but it's not so much that you would say, oh my god, it's so westernized, there is nothing that's unique about it anymore. Because of course in India they also have pizza and like French fries, but it's not the most common thing. And this is what I really like about this country. So this is also something that is different from other countries, because we in Germany are also influenced by so many other countries and cultures, because we are super multicultural, but India is not that multicultural. I mean, tourists are going there, but there are not so many of them, and it's a country where mostly only Indians live. So of course it's kind of influenced by Indians, and this is what is different about the country. So it's only consists of their own culture, mostly, I would say. So now I'm getting to the last question for today, but I get so many more questions on Twitter and also on YouTube. So I would just cut it into a two-part Q&A, if that's okay for you, just to separate it by social media a little bit. And if you have more questions, just go ahead, post them in the comment section. I would love to hear them. So coming to the last question, how is India? Awesome. Totally awesome. This is what I can say about it in one word, because it would take too much time to say everything that I just love about this country. But I would just encourage everybody to give it a try, to just go there and make their own experience, because I feel like it has a very bad image in European media, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad as you think it is. I always felt very secure in India, and I would just like to say to everybody that you should give it a shot and just experience that feeling yourself, because it's amazing. It's totally exciting to be there and to get to know the different parts of the culture. I just loved it there, and I will definitely go there again, definitely. What's your preference, Indian food or Malaysian food? Sorry, but I definitely have to say Indian food. Oh my gosh, no, Malaysian food was so hard. Like, they don't have so much vegetarian stuff. So when I was going from India to Malaysia, I was just completely shocked, because it's so hard to find fucking vegetarian food there. And sometimes you just have to go for fried rice all the time, because this is the only thing they offer as a vegetarian option. And South Indian food is the best thing I ever ate. I love South Indian food and I miss it so much. I especially miss my chai when waking up in the morning. I miss it. So definitely Indian food. This is completely fixed. I like Indian food so much more than I like German food. The very last question for the video that probably everybody is a little interested in. This one is a little bit tricky for you, but what do you have with Azik? So people who are following me on Instagram and Twitter probably already know about this, but it's a very long and funny and surprising story, and I will definitely make another video about this, also with him together when we meet again. But I met a special someone in Malaysia. We fell in love and now we are together, although we're miles and miles apart. But what I always say, if it's really meant to be, then it will work out somehow. This is what I believe. So that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. There are more questions coming soon. I'm so sorry that it took so long, but I still hope it was very interesting for you. I enjoyed it so much to answer all your questions. And I'm looking forward to the next videos. There will definitely also be some vlogs coming up, but currently I don't find the time to edit. I don't know why it is like that, but I'll finish it somehow. I'll do that, then you'll see the video, and I hope you also leave a comment below about everything that I told you. Just tell me about your opinions, your view, or what did you like about my stories and everything. And check out my social media, check out the other videos, and I missed you guys so much. I miss doing videos. And now I'm finally back. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see us next time.